Brian Moran, founder of Government CIO. Welcome to Government CIO Magazine.
Hi, this is Jasmine Staples with Government CIO Magazine, and today we will be speaking with the Associate Administrator for Government Contracting and Business Development at the Small Business Administration, John Shoraka.
So in my role as the Associate Administrator, one of the challenges is that across the federal government, SBA doesn't directly control federal procurement buyers across the agencies, right? There's at least 24 CFO Act agencies that we have to influence, but we don't directly control them. So working with the agencies, helping them to meet their mission, but at the same time putting small business procurement on the front burner, making them aware not only of the goals that the federal government has, but making them aware that it actually helps them meet their mission when they procure with small businesses. Yeah, I think over the last 6 years, from the White House, from the Hill, there's been a significant focus on putting small business procurement on the front burner. When the President first came in, small business procurement was an issue that they brought to the forefront. There was a lot of recommendations that came out from a task force from the White House. These recommendations actually made it into law, into the Small Business Jobs Act of 2010, and to a significant degree into the National Defense Authorization Act of 2013. Some of these changes which helped garner success, as an example, every agency has a small business advocate. It's called the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. Oftentimes these directors of the OSDBU weren't directly reporting to senior leadership at the agency. The White House asked and Congress made a law that an OSDBU director should report to the Deputy Secretary or higher. Another change that I think has gained or created a lot of success is that oftentimes a senior executive service member, an FCS, from a program office wasn't necessarily being kept accountable to a goal. The White House asked and the Hill made law that if you're a senior executive service member, if you have a budget, then you should be held accountable to a goal, and in fact, on an annual basis, that will be part of your review. So some of these changes over the last several years have created a traction where we've been more and more successful in meeting the small business goals. In the private sector, I actually helped manage a firm that my father had started back in the 80s, and I did that for over 20 years. And we actually did federal procurement, so I was familiar with, I guess one would say, the burdens of playing in this market, right? The burdens of responding to a request for proposal or even managing a federal procurement project. It is very different than working in the private sector. So there are different rules, there are different time periods and pipelines for projects. So having that understanding from, I guess, the other side of the fence, when I'm now on this side and working on policy, I know the burdens that small businesses have to go through and the time frames they have to work with to not only get a project, but to be able to manage it successfully. So we've done a lot of work over the last 4 years to simplify and streamline what small businesses have to deal with in order to participate in our programs. I think one of the neat things in being in this place in small business federal procurement is that there's a lot of bipartisan support. So we, even though I'm a political appointee and represent the administration, we've worked very closely with the Hill and our small business committees to advance small business procurement. There's a lot of support because from early on in the administration, it was very well expressed between both sides of the aisle that small business procurement can play a major role in advancing our industrial base, in advancing economic growth. It's $400 to $500 billion. The federal government is the largest procurer of goods and services in the world. And when we say that there's a goal of 23%, that's $80 to $90 billion every year into the hands of small business. So everybody understood that this could make a significant economic impact on local communities. I don't see, we've been on a very good trend over the last 4 years in meeting our goals, working closely with our sister agencies, working closely with the White House and OMB and the Office of Federal Procurement Policy. We've been on an excellent trend in meeting those goals, and quite frankly, we've worked closely with the Hill on both sides of the aisle. I don't see that that's going to change significantly. I think there's vested interest in making sure that we continue to meet our goals. What I'd like to see is that we make decisions today based on the federal government's budget, right? Sometimes these decisions can have a negative impact in 5 or 10 or 15 years. I think we need to be very strategic in some of the decisions that we make to make sure that we don't, even though we are successful today with respect to meeting budgets, we don't make decisions that affect us in the long term when it comes to our industrial base and economic development and, quite frankly, competition in the marketplace. I think we've seen excellent trends, as you mentioned. We've seen excellent trends with respect to meeting our goals. And you mentioned meeting the service-disabled veteran-owned small business goal. That was one goal that the administration, when we came in, we were really focused on meeting that. And the first time we met that ever in history was in 2012. The administration feels that there's a commitment to our service-disabled veterans, and that was one thing that we wanted to focus on. We've consecutively met that goal and improved upon it. The other goal that I think the administration was very focused on was the women-owned small business goal. This was a program, the set-aside program, that was established in law in 2000. However, the program itself wasn't launched until the administration came in 2009 and launched it in 2011. We've worked very closely with the Hill to make that program as streamlined and effective, and there's been several changes over the last years to help us meet the women-owned small business goal of 5% for the first time in history in 2015. I see us moving in that direction with respect to keeping the trend. However, there are certain changes, I think, that have occurred in the last year, particularly including overseas contracts as an example in the base. Historically, when a contract took place overseas, not in the United States mainland, that was excluded from our base. So let's say United States Agency for International Development, they implemented a project in Afghanistan. That wasn't included in the base when we calculate the 23%. So now moving forward, beginning in 2016, those numbers, those contracts that are performed overseas have to be in our base. As we do that, actually, our numbers will come down a little bit, right? Because the base is getting larger. So there might be a little bit of a downturn, but it's only because we're increasing the base. However, with respect to the focus on small business, with respect to the focus on meeting our goals, we're headed down a good path, and I see us continuously improving on this. With one particular note, I think the Women-Owned Small Business Program, our administrator, when she came in, was very key in making sure that we met that. And what she always has said is that the 5% is a base, not a ceiling. And so we met it for the first time in history in 2015, and she has set the bar at 5% and asked us to make sure that that is only a floor and not the ceiling. So moving forward, there's going to be significant focus on the women-owned small business goal as well. I think for small businesses looking at the federal government as a marketplace, number one, I would encourage them to use all the resources that are out there. When we talk about my experience in the private sector, and I did this for 20 years on the other side of the fence, one of the things that I always kick myself for is not taking advantage of the free resources that are out there. If you go to SBA.gov and put in your zip code, you can get an entire list of free resources, either from our district offices or our small business development centers or our SCORE chapters or our women's business centers, all of which are available for free to help you maneuver and understand the federal procurement process, especially if you're not used to it. So that's number one. I would encourage small businesses, if they're new to the market, to reach out to our website and learn the process and take advantage of the free resources. The other thing that I would encourage small businesses is that we have a self-paced training module. One of the things that our administrator always says is reach the small businesses where they are at today. And by that, at least I understand it, as reach them where they are at today geographically, so they may not be able to get into the office, but we need to have online training for them, self-paced online training, and then reach them where they're at in the sense of development. So we have modules on there that are basic 101, government contracting 101, and then we have modules on there that are actually geared towards even contracting officers. So they're very advanced, sophisticated training modules. If you go to sba.gov/GC, Government Contracting Classroom, all those resources are available for a small business that wants to work with the federal government. They will also understand the various designations you can have as a small business. So you can have women-owned small business designation, service-disabled, veteran-owned small business designation, hub zone designation, or an 8A designation. All of those various designations are explained, and also the requirements on how to be certified in those designations is explained. With respect to a message for some of the designations, one of the goals that we have not met yet, quite frankly, is the hub zone goal. The hub zone is a historically underutilized business zone. So these are areas that are underdeveloped. These are areas that have tough economic times, high unemployment rates. This is one area where the federal government is very focused on meeting the goal. So every agency is looking for hub zone designated or certified firms. I would encourage firms out there to, number one, see if they meet the requirements of the hub zone designation. And if you do, please apply for the program and pursue these opportunities. The federal government has a 3% goal, and right now, last year, we were at 1.82. So there's a lot of room for growth. And quite frankly, the hub zone program is really an economic development tool for some of the most disadvantaged areas in the country. So we're really trying to promote the hub zone program. In fact, we have a new initiative called Destination Hub, which goes around the country training small businesses on the hub zone program, conducting matchmaking across the country so that small businesses can engage with the federal procurement buyer. And then we're also engaging with local economic development and elected officials so that they understand the hub zone program and can take advantage of it and bring in firms into their local jurisdictions to pursue government contracting. We've seen that this increases the presence of small businesses in these areas. We've seen that this increases employment in these areas because these small businesses get contracts and then they have to hire up. So it's really an economic development tool that we're focused on because this is the only goal that